at the whole Arctic Circle, that whole region, it is massive.
Is it really larger than North America?
Larger than the United States for sure.
Wow. And so larger than the United States, and it's all
I
just
guess it's
snow?
part of North America, so you can't really say it's larger than North America. Yeah.
You may only get to know the kind of terror that hides deep beneath the waters once you watch this video till the end.
And then to sustain an animal that's that large, like
Yeah.
as large as a muskox.
Well, that gives me hope for Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Brace up for a discovery that shocked the world as Joe Rogan reveals what the Soviets saw underwater. Unexplored. Through research, science has made us understand that there is more to our world than what we see right now, or all that we could possibly even see. To put that better, we can say that the part of the universe where we live is just like the middle layer of a sandwich. There is so much going on over our heads, and there is even much more happening beneath us. We know that the world does not revolve around us, and this understanding has birthed several questions in the heart of many. However, this quest for answers have birthed something more, and it is the reason scientists fly into space and plunge into the seas with special technologies that are designed to reach great depths. However, this is where they fall short. They seem to focus more on the outer space in search of answers than they actually explore the aquatic world beneath us.
The end.
But in the vast oceans beneath us, there could be all kinds of advanced civilizations.
Strange as it may seem, the oceans account for over 95% of the Earth's total volume, and 2/3 of the planet is underwater. Regretfully, though, just around 10% of the water on Earth has been investigated by scientists. Now that sounds more like what you would define as the tip of an iceberg. You can picture what could be hiding in the most remote and darkest sections of the oceans, the lovely, the great, the ones in between, right now. Well, considering it, we really cannot hold anyone responsible for not thoroughly exploring the depths of seas anyhow. People are meant to survive on the surface of the Earth, thus stepping outside their comfort zone into the deep sea could be a dangerous journey. Certainly some have tried to see past appearances, but the reality is most of these inquisitive researchers typically do not get to see their work through to the end. On the other hand, some other entities and creatures seem to benefit from this since they can readily hide in the most remote areas of the ocean, where they are sure humans would never be able to get. Quite wise, if you will ask me. Now, when I say beings and creatures, I do not mean strange or dangerous animals we might never have seen in our own part of the Earth, nor do I mean those mind-boggling plants existing thousands and thousands of feet below the surface. I believe we should also take into account the possibility of extraterrestrial or paranormal entities hiding out at those depths, even while we cannot overlook the fact that these things exist at great depths, and they give the seas surrounding us life and beauty. Though you would be surprised that it is not far from the truth, I understand that sounds like an extreme hypothesis. Actually, it becomes even more startling since some technology still alien to humans could be housed in the most remote areas of the oceans. I'm referring to technologies with crazy speed that human scientists' minds have not yet caught. And this leads us to one of the horrible revelations made by the Soviet Army in Russia: submarine UFOs. The Russian Navy sent a completely weaponized nuclear submarine down into the ocean in what seems hardly like an adventure. They wouldn't expect anything unusual since at the beginning of their trip it would have seemed like one of their regular military duties. But what surprised them, a rather negative one, was waiting for them. About 260 meters below the surface, the submarine sensed some unusual objects accelerating towards it. Since these objects were just out of the usual, their speed exactly made the Russian army feel as though there was approaching danger. Following a closer inspection, the captain found that these 6 disc-like objects, like they were under control by something otherworldly, were moving towards the submarine in a formation. The sighting set the submarine's tension right away, and the Soviets had no interpretation for what was approaching them. However, things grew even more intense when the captain discovered the objects might be reflecting their submarine. The written report claims that the captain told the submarine to slow down a little, and at exactly the same moment the odd objects also slowed down. This is the part where everyone in the submarine would start silently praying in their hearts. When you consider it, though, you could deduce that some certain entities from another world occupied the odd disc-like objects, more similar to aliens. And the fact they were reflecting the submarine suggests they were captivated by it, much as the Soviets were stunned by them. You never know, they might not have meant any damage at all. Still, the potential respect did not last very long since the foreign bodies returned to their insane speed towards the submarine. It would be quite clear now that those objects were most definitely being under control from somewhere. The captain knew they could be in danger at that point when they started to pick up their remarkable speed. They were therefore able to reach the surface before a collision occurred, but they remained fascinated about what they came across. Looking through their periscope, the 6 objects also emerged from the water and vanished into the heavens at an amazing speed. The experience would not today be considered as something out of this world. The startling speed at which the objects moved, however, turned the heads of the Soviets upside down. Certainly, the speed could only indicate that the technology belonged to some alien or some creature much beyond human comprehension. Nobody would really believe or accept, though, that aliens lurked under the sea. Actually, the Russian government never wanted the material to be shared with the public, and at the time they did not believe aliens were a reality. They were not in need of the possible upheaval that might follow. They so subdued the Navy men, kept the encounter under wraps, and clung to their conviction that aliens were only bits of imagination. Until a larger and more terrifying encounter occurred under a lake in Russia, claiming lives this time, the belief would work for them. Let's go on an adventure to Lake Baikal. A group of Soviets who were brave enough to swim to the hidden depths of the icy lake, where no one else would even consider going, made the most horrifying discovery. Despite the fact that the Russian government made an effort to silence those who were left behind the encounter, the narrative could not be kept under wraps for an excessively long period of time. The Lake Baikal. One of the places in Russia that you would never anticipate finding any kind of life is deep within Lake Baikal, which is a lake that is owned by the Russian government. It would be surprising to learn this, given that the lake stands out from others due to the fact that it possesses a number of remarkable qualities. In spite of this, it is generally known for being extremely cold throughout the entire year. Consequently, it would be reasonable to assume that there is no living thing in the lake. Lake Baikal is a rift lake that is located in the southern region of Siberia. It contains an ideal depth and a striking width. This body of fresh water is even more expansive than some of the countries that are located in the vicinity, as it encompasses a staggering area of more than 30,000 square kilometers. Just imagine a lake that is significantly larger than the entire country of Belgium. Isn't that a pretty sizable amount? The incredible surface area of Lake Baikal places it in 7th place among the largest lakes in the world. However, its remarkable depth distinguishes it from other large lakes around the world and provides an additional significant advantage. Lake Baikal, which is still the deepest lake in the world, has a depth of more than 5,000 feet, which enables it to store almost 20 million cubic kilometers of water. So, that is absolutely wonderful. Because of its incredible depth and width, Lake Baikal is considered to be the largest freshwater lake in terms of volume. Researchers have discovered that the lake actually contains more than 20% of the freshwater that is found all over the world. Most people avoid Lake Baikal because of its freezing temperature, which gets much colder as one descends to the depths of the lake. Despite the fact that all of these are excellent qualities that set the lake apart from others, the majority of people avoid Lake Baikal. Despite the fact that the water temperature is affected by both location and the time of year, it never falls within a range that is considered to be comfortable. The lake is anticipated to have a temperature as low as -50 degrees during the winter season, which is typically when it is at its coldest. Due to the fact that the water temperature drops to such a low level that the water begins to freeze, there are some individuals who are willing to take risks and drive over the ice, which can sometimes be as thick as 6 feet. The purpose of this action is to provide context regarding the degree to which the ice becomes severe and thick. It is unacceptable and could actually be quite hazardous. During the summer, the sun melts the ice, which causes the temperature of the lake to rise. However, the average temperature remains approximately 1.5 degrees, which is still too cold for comfort if you would like to be comfortable. Furthermore, as the ice melts in the summer, the lakes begin to experience a type of weather that is cold and stormy, which has the potential to occasionally cause waves that are quite strong. Therefore, the fact that you are not likely to find any significant human habitat close to the lake can be explained by the severe circumstances that have occurred. In spite of the fact that humans were forced to flee as far as they could, it is possible that other species and beings discovered solace and tranquility within the depths of this extremely cold lake. Due to the fact that Lake Baikal contains more than a mixture of all the Great Lakes in North America, it is home to thousands upon thousands of animal and plant species that do not appear to be bothered by the cold, or to put it another way, they appear to have been specifically designed for the temperature. I'd like to present yet another fascinating fact at this very moment. The age of Lake Baikal, which is 30 million years old, places it among the oldest lakes on the planet. On the other hand, this also indicates that the lake has historically been home to a number of organisms and species that we might not even be able to conceive of in our lifetimes. In point of fact, it is highly probable that they continue to harbor some of these dreadful entities. The Soviets were certain that they had discovered some of these extraterrestrial beings that were submerged in water. Yeah, there's some sort of alien base underwater or some meeting place where that's where they hide. Joe Rogan came to the conclusion that there could be extraterrestrial beings hiding beneath the surface of the ocean some distance away from you. Due to the fact that the majority of people believe that these are forbidden areas, it is possible that the aliens found refuge in the depths. They were relieved that no one would ask them to come over. The people who lived beneath Lake Baikal, on the other hand, were almost certainly mistaken. There were rumors that some classified documents from the Soviet era had surfaced at some point in 2009. These documents appeared to contain the complete details of a paranormal experience that took place beneath Lake Baikal in 1982, which was 10 years prior to the end of the Soviet era. They continued to hold on to their belief that the alien thingy is nothing more than crazy propaganda that the people of Russia did not need to see as accurate, and as is typical of the Soviet government, they kept the encounter a closely guarded secret so that they could continue to maintain their belief. The fact that they were unable to keep the secret for an extended period of time led to the cat being let out of the bag. The records of the Soviet Union, which were discovered many decades after the event, reveal that a number of men from the Russian Navy received diving training at Lake Baikal. None of these individuals would have conceived of the possibility that their training would lead them to a different world that is unknown. All of them quickly grabbed their gears and dove headfirst into the icy lake. For the first 100 feet and another few hundred feet after that, it seemed as though they were in good shape. However, everything changed when they came across some horrifying humanoid figures that they were unable to properly explain. The suits that the creatures wore were a brilliant silver color, and they were nothing like the diving suits that we wore. When the officials from the Navy conducted a thorough investigation and found out that these species were diving at that depth without any diving gear, they were so shocked that they were literally unable to contain their shock. The oxygen tank is not present, nor is there a swimsuit or scuba gear. These entities that resembled humans were simply moving at that level, which was not really a cause for concern. At the end of the day, that was the most appropriate way to explain that they were not human, something that was inexplicably more powerful. The humanoid animals were later given the name Lake Baikal swimmers by the naval officials who were in charge of the situation. On the other hand, this would be after a second encounter, given that they all fled for their lives and came back to the surface as soon as they came across the terrifying entities. As they made their way back to the surface, the naval officials recounted their ordeal to the captain. They reached the conclusion that they had reached the end of their relationship with the depths of that lake. But what do you think? It was only now that their problems started to become apparent. Not for the purpose of training this time, but rather to take a photograph of one of the creatures that they asserted they had found, the captain selected 7 of the most courageous and powerful men to return to Lake Baikal before they could even think about celebrating their survival after a near-death experience. That would have been a concept that the captain would have considered to be reasonable. However, he quickly learned that the concept was intended to be discarded rather than put into action. As stipulated by military regulations, the 7 officials were compelled to follow their captain as they made their way back to the depths of Lake Baikal, where they started their search and hunt for these supernatural entities. Over the course of several hours spent descending into the depths, they were finally able to locate these species, which stood approximately 9 feet tall. In spite of the fact that they were concerned with capturing one of them as a specimen, it was undeniable that the animals were much smaller than any of them. They brought out their tools and attempted to capture one of these creatures, because they must have believed that the task would be as easy as it is when you want to capture a large fish or another type of aquatic life. At this point, however, they came to the realization that the creatures were extraterrestrial beings because they appeared to be in possession of a technology that was beyond their comprehension. As soon as the creatures became aware of the impending danger, they started to wave a metallic device that caused some disturbance in the waters that surrounded the naval officials. They had already been engulfed by the magnetic waves, which immediately propelled them to the surface of the lake. This occurred before they had the opportunity to comprehend what was about to come upon them and, if they were able to, most likely make preparations for the impact. This is the point at which things start to become somewhat depressing. After spending thousands of feet below sea level, each of the divers encountered difficulties with decompression and began to gasp for air as soon as they reached the surface of the water. However, despite the fact that they were present to provide assistance, 3 of the members of the medical team were unable to receive treatment before they took their last breath. Those 4 individuals who were able to survive the encounter were left with severe injuries and required multiple treatments in order to fully recover from the effects of the encounter. Despite the fact that this horrifying event took place in the early 1980s, the Russian government chose to conceal it from the general public. The only information that was disclosed was that the 4 men who survived were in such excruciating pain that they were unable to discuss it. Nevertheless, it is only natural that the government was merely attempting to conceal the truth about extraterrestrial beings from her people. How come Lake Baikal? To begin, let's take into consideration the following. Would it have been reasonable for the Soviet government to inform the people that some extraterrestrial beings had been discovered underwater? In my opinion, they gave off the impression that they were completely insane and were merely attempting to deceive the general public. To begin, the possibility of extraterrestrial beings existing was not widely acknowledged during that time period. However, we believe or hope that if they did exist, they remained in space rather than in our midst. For all intents and purposes, that is how the films portray them. There are numerous types of rockets and spacecraft. The aliens, on the other hand, appear to possess a level of intelligence that is beyond our comprehension. During the time that people are busy searching for extraterrestrial beings in outer space, these individuals have managed to make their way into the middle of us. Because of this, it is highly likely that they are looking down from the depths of the waters, observing how we continue to live on their roofs without any indication of what is going on beneath us, while we are busy going about our lives and living them in oblivion. As a matter of fact, it is both extremely fascinating and terrifying at the same time. Furthermore, these highly intelligent paranormal entities that were observed by the Soviets did not choose to make a river or lake their habitat like they thought they would. It would be a good idea to designate that space as a place to relax. They carefully chose a location such as Lake Baikal, which they are certain you would never even consider swimming into in your wildest dreams. Those who swim in Lake Baikal also have the benefit of having access to a large body of water that is both deep and wide. At that level of depth and scale, the likelihood of a human ever coming across them is so low that it is considered to be a once-in-a-lifetime event. At the time of the Soviet Union, that one and only chance had taken place. Therefore, the aliens that they were looking for were literally terrifying in the depths of an ice-cold lake, while scientists were still busy exploring outer space in the hopes of finding an alien that they could bring back with them. Consequently, it is reasonable to assert that the extraterrestrials emerged victorious. However, despite the fact that we are in awe of the extraordinary intelligence and insights possessed by these supernatural beings, I believe that the awesomeness also raises a number of questions. Whereas humans are able to withstand the extreme cold of Lake Baikal, how is it that aliens are able to do so? How could they possibly survive at such a great depth if they did not have any oxygen tanks or other specialized diving equipment like human divers? The most important question is, why do they appear to have more advanced technologies than we are aware of? Not only that, but we should also address the issues that have been unresolved for a long time regarding the questions. Regarding the question of whether or not these extraterrestrial beings are friendly or hostile. As a result of the fact that the Soviets were also confronted with a catastrophe, it is not clear whether the aliens simply reacted to the fact that the Soviets attempted to capture one of them, or whether they are hostile in general. Though it's doubtful we could ever have responses to these questions, it definitely calls for some degree of thought and most likely more research. Regarding this video, what impressions do you have? Regarding aliens, what do you believe? Do you believe that the alien migration from outer space into our planet could indicate approaching danger in the closest future? Though it's doubtful we could ever have responses to these questions, it definitely calls for some degree of thought and most likely more research. Regarding this video, what impressions do you have? Regarding aliens, what do you believe? Do you believe that the alien migration from outer space into our planet could indicate approaching danger in the closest future?